programmers don't use React. Baby dicks need AI for a fact. Real programmers still code in C. Baby dicks can't get no P. Real programmers got Linux and Tux. Baby dicks need React and Rust. Real programmers don't need AI. Baby dicks can't get no thighs. Real programmers don't need to rewrite. Baby dicks try and it don't come out right. Real programmers got libraries. Baby dicks don't get no flurries. Real programmers got pull requests. Baby dicks, they can't get breast. Real programmers don't need CI. Baby dicks don't get no Ike. Real programmers don't need RPA. Baby dicks can't get no date. Real programmers don't use Slack. Baby dicks can't get no back. Real programmers use Fortran. Baby dicks are not real man. Real programmers still use COBOL. Baby dicks don't get no hole.
Oh, vibe coder do think you're hot with your AI, but your code's as limp as your game, and I'm here to say why. You're bragging about your money, but your ego's overblown. Your tech's a messy hookup, leaving chaos in its zone. Your A is like your mama, sleeping round, no shame, gobbling up the data like she's playing a dirty game. It's hallucinating nonsense, spitting lies to every dude, while you're jerking to your keyboard thinking you're the coolest brood. Your AI's a sloppy mess, just like your mom's affairs. Fake news, deep fakes, it's a scandal, no one cares. No one knows its logic, cause it's dumber than your face. Vibe coder, take a seat, you're a tech world disgrace. Vibe coder, oh you're small, in your pants and in your brain. Your AI's like your mom, gobbling wieners in the fast lane. You're proud of all your money, but your code a total flop. I'm laughing at your hustle, vibe coder, time to stop. You're stealing people's work, yeah, your AI's got no class. Like your mom at the buffet, gobbling everything that's past. It's out here faking stories, ruining lives with every click, while you're stroking your own ego, thinking you're so slick. Your tech's a black box mystery, no one knows what's up. Like your tiny little pecker, it's a secret you can't strut. It lies and
Almost
says
ready,
it's got
folks.
it, but it's bluffing through the chat. Boy, your AI's like your mama, loose and full of crap. Your AI's a sloppy mess, just like your mom's affairs. Fake news, deep fakes, it's a scandal, no one cares. No one knows its logic, cause it's dumber than your face. Vibe coder, take a seat, you're a tech world disgrace. Vibe coder, oh you're small, in your pants and in your brain. Your AI's like your mom, gobbling wieners in the fast lane. You're proud of all your money, but your code's a total flop. I'm laughing at your hustle, vibe coder, time to stop.
Something's
Let's talk
okay.
about your
I'm gonna ignore it.
package, yeah, it's smaller than your dreams. Can't penetrate a firewall, let alone a girl's blue jeans. Your AI's out here who
That's right. That's right. Your AI's like your mom, gobbling wieners in the fast lane. What's up? Battle on Twitch. Good to see you. Okay. That means I think I have everything I need to get started. Welcome in, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. How's everyone doing? I hope you're having a good Thursday and staying safe out there. It's crazy. Week of insanity. Yeah, definitely week of insanity. What's up, Abe? Abe on YouTube, good to see you. Let me make sure I've got that. I'm good. All right. Well, let's get into the news. I'm going to be covering the typical stuff plus a bit of an extra article at the end. Got my coffee ready. The title kind of gives away what I'm going to be talking about, but let's get into it. So let's start with the security stuff. Then we'll go into a bit more of one or two of the more boring articles, and then we'll end with how Rust is woke. Yeah, it'll be good. So let me go over like this. Okay. Evoke Wellness employees stole the identities of hundreds of patients. This is a good example of how, irrespective of how much security you put into your software or your website or whatever it is, there are always going to be ways around that. You can't account for the fact that people from within can turn on you for any reason at all. And this is an example of that. So despite the fact that I complain about the tech industry in general as a whole, an Evoke Wellness employee is facing multiple charges after allegedly stealing the identities of hundreds of patients from the addiction treatment center. It's an unnamed 33-year-old former employee at the Hilliard Addiction Center, worked there from November 2021 to July 2024. Now, what these guys do is they provide substance use disorder treatments for various things like drug, alcohol, and opioid use. So this person stole a bunch of data from people who have, personal abuse problems, and then sold it on the dark web. Say what you will about the state of the tech industry and how little the people in tech tend to pay attention to security issues, how much we've obfuscated and abstracted away with stupid paradigms, the entire premise of coding, all of these things that I constantly complain about. But this is a perfect example of how you cannot account for the human factor. And this data got out there, and then of course this data gets used to blackmail people, identity theft, and so on. The man allegedly stole names, addresses, birth dates, and social security numbers of at least 240 people. Now, this could be someone you care about, right? This is the sad part. And the problem is that I'm not going to get into this portion. I was debating whether I wanted to actually talk about this portion. I'm not going to talk about it, but apparently Evoke Wellness does some kind of underhanded things to bring in people with addiction problems for their bottom line. However, that is kind of outside the scope of these streams, right? So I'm not going to get into that. But there you go. That's our starting point. Unfortunately, an underhanded employee in a allegedly underhanded company gets access to data and then uses it to make money. Story as old as time. What's up, Effin' Epic on YouTube? Good to see you. What's up, Frozen? Good to see you on the Twitch side. So one more time, welcome in everyone. If you're watching on X, LinkedIn, Rumble, YouTube, Twitch, Kick, wherever you're watching from, I appreciate everybody who's watching right now. Let's keep going through some of the security stuff here. Tech error exposes personal details of top American bank's customers. U.S. Bank one of the largest banks in the United States, has contacted an unknown number of individuals about an unauthorized party accessing their personal details. The bank, publicly traded as U.S. Bancorp, sent out breach notification letters to individuals whose data may have been exposed. According to the notification, a tech error in early April exposed personal user details. So this was on April 8th, 2025. The unauthorized parties may have accessed account numbers, names, addresses, phones, and email addresses. Again, just another instance of your data being leaked. Now, what the error was, a technical configuration error is what they called it. What was the nature of this thing? We don't know. They didn't provide the details, and I couldn't find details on what it was. I don't even think that this will ever come out. I have a high suspicion that if I was this bank, I would never state what the technical configuration is. I just wouldn't even bring it up. It just would not. It would never happen. And particularly because it might expose too many details about the internal workings of the bank, and so I just wouldn't say anything. Now, could it be a misconfigured S3 bucket? Maybe it might be, but we'll never know. This one is, I have to be particularly careful. It's a positive thing. So let me do this. This one's positive. I have to be careful about how I word this and what I say, but well, let's just... FBI rescues 109 children, arrests 244 scum tied to online sexual exploitation or sexploitation ring in Texas. Look at this. This is good news. I like seeing stuff like this. This is absolutely fantastic. I want to see more articles like this. So they shut down this entire ring of bad people exploiting children in bad ways. And the fact that they rescued 109 children and then convicted or charged at least 244 people is fantastic. Now, how did they do this? It doesn't actually say, but you can imagine that they absolutely used online systems, right? Because a lot of these things operate online, and they say that there is a bunch of digital evidence that they used to track these people down and then also to bring charges forward. So this is good. This is a good thing that I hope we see more of in the tech industry, because we see too much negativity in how these things operate. I cover too many negative news articles, like the data getting leaked and whatnot, which are absolutely used against children, unfortunately. Now, in a little bit of a weird kind of, I don't know exactly how to describe this, but it's dystopian, maybe. I don't think that's the right word. Hang on, folks. I forgot that I have to do one thing here. Let me do it right now. I forgot to put an announcement on my Discord, all right? So here we go. Microsoft's new Copilot Vision can see your apps on Windows. Yeah, so the Copilot AI is now capable of literally seeing what you're viewing on your screen, and it will analyze whatever it's seeing on your screen and supposedly do things like help you set up meetings, calendars, track information, etc., etc. This tied in with the news articles that we covered yesterday, particularly the one where Meta AI inadvertently exposed private messages on a public feed, whether it did so by accident or not doesn't matter. This is going to be very, very open for attack vectors. And we went over a study that also covered how these attack vectors work. There were some researchers that literally did use Copilot and manipulated Copilot by sending out emails with prompts inside of the emails that you didn't even have to open. Just receiving the email in your inbox meant that Copilot would get prompted to take certain actions like, oh, I don't know, send your personal data to remote servers where people could then receive that data. Then they shouldn't, right? This stuff is it's only going to get worse. As much as we don't pay attention to security before AI and these LLMs, we most certainly don't do that now. Now, some quite clever people. Laughing Panda, how you doing? Good to see you on the Twitch side. Seems safe. Not at all could be used against the user, and all around just a good idea. Yeah, that's a good summary. There's no issue with it. It's going to be safe. It's never going to get used against you ever. Pay money for it. Now here's a funny little trick. If you recall, probably 2 weeks ago, we covered, I think it was 2 articles where there were a couple of CEOs. One of them was Klarna, and there was another CEO as well who started doing this. And they were using deepfake AI to clone themselves, to create an AI version of themselves. And then they would generate videos and have calls with their employees as their AI selves. And let's say scrupulous, like less than scrupulous actors decided, hey, that's a fantastic idea. Klarna's CEO is now taking your calls over an AI hotline. And you can see how this can absolutely lead to people using this to create CEO clones and set up meetings and then have employees literally give you their information. So this particular article goes into how the Klarna CEO now has a hotline where you can talk to the AI CEO of Klarna and ask questions. But there's another article, and I don't know if I have it on this stream, or let me just see. No, I don't have it on this stream, so I must not have read it thoroughly. But I did read one this morning where hackers are using this trick, and they're sending out like calendar invites pretending to be these CEOs because the CEOs themselves are doing this, and then they're getting all kinds of access and information they shouldn't have. Continuing on in this line of AI hypage, Canva to job candidates. Thou shalt use AI during interviews. Design Software Slinger warns it won't hire devs who aren't good at modern tools. And meanwhile, we have other companies, like I believe even OpenAI, saying, don't use AI during interviews. There is a very mixed bag of signals happening in the tech industry right now around whether you should be using AI in the interview process or not. And Canva is one of many that, maybe not many, maybe many is a strong word, but of several, where the companies are saying that you absolutely must use AI so that you can prove that you know how to use AI as part of your job, which I think says more about Canva than anything else. I don't know. I don't know how far this is going to go, but it's getting kind of dumb. Then we have the Navy. Now, the U.S. Navy, well, let me just preface this. I'm myself and many others online, well, several others online, on social media with a reasonable social media presence, who you might consider experts in tech of some kind because of stuff they've done historically or otherwise, have long stated that the entire premise of third-party packages being imported by programmers and companies relying on open source software as the primary mechanism by which you get features out the door, you delegate security responsibility to third parties, essentially all of this third party stuff has gone way too far in the delegation spectrum. We delegate way too much as an industry to third parties and then kind of wash our hands of it, and it gives us the ability to absolve our responsibility, which is very bad and has led to disastrous results. And unfortunately, the US Navy is paying a price for doing this exact thing. US Navy backs Right to Repair after $13 billion carrier crew left half fed by contractor locked ovens. So this is kind of a lateral article, like it's not exactly a tech-based article about software, but you can see how third-party vendor lock-in can cause some serious harm. So what the hell is this article talking about? What's up, Ernesto, who is frozen on Twitch? Yeah, that's right, yeah. U.S. Navy Secretary John Fallon has told the Senate the service needs the right to repair its own gear and will rethink how it writes contracts to keep control of intellectual property and ensure sailors can fix hardware, especially in a fight. So what happened was there was a carrier ship that was trying to ensure that there was enough food for the crew of over 4,500 because 6 of its 8 ovens were out of actions and sailors were barred by contract from fixing them themselves. Whoever just dropped a follow or a like, I just noticed the notification there. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's difficult for me to pay attention, but thanks. So Fallon says, I am a huge supporter of Right to Repair. I went on the carrier. They had 8 ovens. This is a ship that serves 15,300 meals a day. Only 2 were working, 6 were out. The issue is that they have people who can actually who can actually fix the ovens, but you can't because it's part of the contract that you're not allowed to touch the thing. Otherwise it voids warranty, things like this. And as a result of this, they had to wait essentially for the third-party vendor to fix the problem for them. Now they did bring up a similar issue that I think is also quite interesting. USS Gerald Ford's weapons elevators, which move bombs from deep storage to the flight deck. They reportedly took more than 4 years after delivery to become fully operational, delaying the carrier's first proper deployment. They have to come out, diagnose the problem, and then they'll fix it. It's crazy. We should be able to fix this. The Navy is not alone in its concerns, as the U.S. Army is peeved about the right to repair equipment it paid for, too. In a rare display of bipartisanship, both Democrats and Republicans agreed the Army shouldn't be waiting on contractors to fix its kit, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth issued a memo directing the service to add right to repair provisions to its contracts. This points to an issue that we're seeing in the tech industry as well. Imagine that you're building your own form of a carrier and you import a package, you NPM install it, you Python or pip install it, Composer install it, Rust Cargo Crate install it. You use a third-party service for your authentication mechanisms. There's plenty out there. You use a third-party service for your database management. There's plenty out there. You use these libraries to configure your S3 buckets. You can look at the counter down below, which I have to change. It's going to be 311 days. Essentially, you just take stuff that you should be responsible for. As programmers, as managers of programmers, as executives of companies with programmers, if you're producing anything that has a software or code-centric system at its core, you should be responsible. You should have all the abilities that are required to maintain that piece of whatever it is, that product. And when you're handing out your responsibility to third parties, kind of like what's going on with the Army here, you are essentially handcuffing yourself. You're locking yourself in to that third party. Even if they are open source or paid, it doesn't matter. You are dependent upon them because you have no concept or awareness of what you're importing. And I'm not just saying this. This isn't just me talking. There's an enlightened programming stream. If you go on my YouTube channel, you can just type in !YouTube and you go to my live tab. There's also a playlist called Enlightened Programming on that channel, and you can go on that playlist. And there is a study I did, and I believe it was an open source study. The title of it might include the word open source in it. If you look at that study, over 90% of corporations, done at least in, I believe it was a North American study. It might have been only in the US, but North American, if memory serves me right, are dependent 100% on open source code. So 90% of those corporations that were surveyed have a 100% code dependency on open source code, which is a huge attack vector. And you can see how something in the Army, like not being able to fix your own damn ovens, or not being able to fix an elevator that ships particular, ammunitions from the storage, at the bottom, the storage deck or whatever, up to the top deck. These kinds of things should absolutely be within the hands of the Army to be able to deal with internally so that they do not have to wait for things like that. Imagine what would happen if you were in the middle of a battle. What are you going to do? Right? What are you going to do? Are you going to obey the law that you have, or the agreement you signed with a third-party vendor, and be like, well, we can't fix this thing because that's what our contract says? I don't think so. I really don't think so. And it's going to, even if you're not in the middle of a battle, it's going to mean that you're going to be sitting out there for years waiting for something to get fixed, which means that you're going to be unprepared should you be called to battle, right? So the whole premise of rely on third parties, trust the experts, why reinvent the wheel? Why would you want to know how to do things yourself? You absolutely do want to know. It's part of our damn job. I don't know how you circumvent that. All right. What's up, Laughley on Twitch? Good to see you. What's up, Purecoin? Good to see you. Again, everybody, welcome in. I appreciate all the people who are jumping on. So, okay. We're going to go, okay, let me pull, okay, here we go. This is it. Starbucks brews up AI to support baristas instead of replace them. So in a previous stream, I covered how Starbucks was looking at completely replacing baristas with AI. So you'd walk up to the counter, and instead of a barista greeting you and making your coffee for you, which a survey was done by customers of Starbucks, and they said they don't like that. There's some preference to having a human take your order and watching them make your coffee. Jokes ensue, I'm sure. But Starbucks kind of let that go and said, no, okay, fine. We're not going to replace baristas with AI. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to do a flagship program where we provide baristas with an iPad with AI in it. And then the baristas can use the AI to flip through manuals or search for answers. Or look up drink recipes, troubleshoot equipment, create a help ticket if in-store repairs fail. The managers can also use it for managing staff, inventory, scheduling, HR. All of this kind of information can be supplemented with an AI system. Now, this is, okay, I'm going to try and be a little bit objective about this, all right? if you take really, really briefly, so we can get through these articles, if you take this in a vacuum and you go, well, AI is supposed to be a supplement, right? We'll just give people an iPad and they have a supplementary AI and they can do all kinds of stuff with that supplementary AI. I'm not fully opposed to that. I think it's okay to at least consider it and try it out. I don't think it's the end of the world to give baristas, for example, an iPad with AI in it so they can ask basic questions. However, stepping outside of that vacuum, if you bundle in all of the problems that I've covered on these very streams going on to 67 episodes now with regards to AI, the security issues, the mental atrophy that comes from AI, the issues around hallucinations, incorrect answers, etc., I can see that there is indeed a big problem here. Security alone would be enough for me to say this should not be happening right now, because what you're going to end up doing is you're going to be putting in personal information about people who order, information about individual Starbucks inventory, their scheduling, all of that into an AI system, which could be hacked. And it's really not that hard to hack these AI systems these days. And I think that's a bad place, a bad position to put yourself in. I think it's too risky to do it. And if I had to guess, I would say that's probably going to happen. As Starbucks does this, they are probably going to suffer from a hack or some other issue with these AI systems. I just don't think they're ready for this. I don't even think that they will ever be ready for something like that. But we'll see what happens. Let's see. We've got... Let me pull up this one. Now, if you think AI is pulling people apart, as in it's making people less social, well, apparently, this is going to help. So AI is literally being used to extract your browser history. There is a company, it's a dating site. It will literally extract your browser history. You install a plugin on Chrome or whatever, and you get all your browser history, the last, I don't know, I think it's like 50 days or something. There's somewhere in here. Oh yeah, here we go. 5,000 most recent searches, which are turned into a browsing personality profile by AI. And then you get matched with people who have a very similar browsing profile. Now, again, there's no way this can go wrong, right? There's zero chance this can go wrong. All your browsing history there's no way it goes wrong, right? There you go. If you want to date, go join whatever this company is, browser dating. This stuff's getting stupid, folks. It's getting real dumb. Let's go over to this one. Kind of in relation to Starbucks, the Starbucks one, and similar articles we've gone over. Many businesses are thinking twice on using AI bots. Companies and customers want to keep humans in customer service. This goes again to, well, it's kind of why I grouped these last three together, because they absolutely have a social impact. People are becoming, in some cases, less social, but people also want sociability or a social aspect, a social element to their day-to-day interactions. And when it comes to customer service, or like walking up to your barista to order coffee, there's something to be said about the social aspect, having another fellow human there who generally understands how the operations operate, and you can ask questions and whatnot. There's a level of trust there that you cannot achieve with AI. And it's kind of weird if the Meta AI public feed stuff is anything to go by. It's almost as if when you're talking to a thing, anything in private, you want to talk to a non-human machine-like interface so that you can tell some of your deepest, darkest secrets to it. But when you're out in public ordering coffee or talking to customer service about something that you're having a hard time with, using a product or something, you want a human to be there. There's definitely some kind of like social psychology that's becoming apparent as these AI systems are being used, and what consumers are saying about it and what companies are saying about it. So again, it just kind of goes in line with the previous articles. And then just to also tie this into it, there is someone who's in full cope mode. I don't know who's paying this author. ChatGeppetto's 10-hour outage has given me a new perspective on AI. It's genuinely helping millions of people get through life. I wonder how much money OpenAI paid for this opinion article. And this author goes on to describe how there was an outage of OpenAI's ChatGeppetto for 10 hours, and there were people who were complaining that there were things they could not do without that AI. So let me see here. Okay, within minutes of asking readers for their opinions on the ChatGeppetto outage, my inbox was inundated with people from around the globe telling me how hard it was to cope without access to their OpenAI-powered chatbot. From Canada to New Zealand, Malaysia to the Netherlands, ChatGeppetto users shared their worries and explained why AI means so much to them. Some relied on ChatGeppetto to study, finding it almost impossible to get homework done without access to the chatbot. Others used ChatGeppetto to help them with online dating, discussing conversations from apps like Tinder or Hinge to ensure the perfect match. And a lot of people reached out to say that they spent hours a day speaking with ChatGeppetto, filling a void, getting help with rationalizing thoughts, even helping them to sleep at night. One reader wrote me a long email, which they prefaced by saying, "I haven't written an email without AI in months, so I'm sorry if what I'm trying to say is a bit all over the place." The premise of this article is, hey, look at how much AI is helping and benefiting people's lives. Is that really the proper takeaway from this? Is that the takeaway that we should be walking out of here with from these kinds of remarks? When you can't study, when you can't write an email with AI, when you cannot have conversations about romantic relationships without AI, and the takeaway from this author, who's clearly a shill and being paid for this opinion, and the takeaway is, look at how good AI is, look at how well AI is improving our lives. What kind of smooth brain take is this? What you're seeing before you is the idiocracy movement, where AI is literally disempowering or de-empowering. It's literally taking away people's autonomy. It's taking away their cognitive sovereignty. That's what you're seeing. You're not seeing an improvement. You're seeing a massive shift in people's lives in a negative way. This is so dumb. What a dumb take. So I absolutely wanted to tie this in with the social aspects that, the Starbucks AI thing and all of that. It kind of all goes together. Ray on YouTube says, ChatGeppetto gives me chills of cringe. I don't really hate, but I heard that name so often from stupid people, I cannot tolerate it. Just use a competitor. Sure. Sure, Ray on YouTube. Whatever you say. Okay. One more on a little bit of a cybersecurity bent here. Hackers claim attack on New York's landmark 550 Madison Avenue. So apparently some hackers have stolen hundreds of gigabytes of data from a company that operates at this location, 550 Madison. 700 gigabytes of data. The researchers who looked into this only found 5 data samples, and the data was allegedly stolen from the building operator. It includes passport photos, incident reports, mortgage assignments, and a service contractor agreement. So the hackers are claiming that they have this data and they're going to hold on to it until their ransom demands are paid. If not, then they release it all. You can see here that essentially what they've done is the property owner had their data hacked somehow one way or another. You can see there's pictures blurred out here for safety purposes. And this includes passport. Like you can tell that's a passport photo. And the people who have companies or who work in this building are at risk of having their information leaked out, because when you have the manager of the building and their data accessed or hacked in this case, then you're going to know everything about the history of that building, who's ever operated there, and what capacity, etc. So a lot of different companies have been there. It's not known how far back the data goes. It's not known all the details that actually exist. All we know is the sample data of like 5 different samples. But this is a very, very good way for hackers to get access to data that would actually be quite appealing to people who are external actors to the United States and might want to have this data for nefarious purposes. This could go for a lot of money in the black market in terms of cybersecurity. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with this. They haven't, so far there hasn't been any movement on this last time I checked, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. Okay. What's up, Ross on Twitch? Good to see you. Very briefly, I wanted to bring up this article, and then we're going to get into how Rust is woke. So have AI models made actual progress? This is one of the things that I hear about all the time when I debate people online about, particularly on X, or when I see people debating, even just when I look at people debating. And they go, well, look at how far AI has come. Look at it from like 2 years ago to now. And the question is, how far has it come? AI progress has plateaued below Geppetto 5 levels. So when we look at the chart here, there's a chart right here. Let me just pop it open. You can see the growth rate in terms of the performance of these models as the years go by. And the performance basically has no significant improvement since 2023, which is right about here. The jump from here to up here is not as high as years before, which makes a ton of sense if it's true that these LLMs are not going to be what they are sold to be. There is a limit. There is a ceiling to these things. The Apple AI paper, which I don't think I've gone over yet, covered this. The improvement rates are not there. The improvement rates are showing that there is a far different story from the sales pitch of these LLMs, of these LLM systems. What's more is that even these, here we go. Even the benchmarks for these performance statistics are overfitted. If you don't know what it means that these companies look at what the benchmark questions are for these AI systems, and they will prep their LLM to pass the benchmark as best as possible. That means that the LLMs that these companies use to pass these benchmarks are not the same ones that you're using when you're doing your prompting or generating videos. These are just meant to pass the benchmarks. So these performance outputs are probably even warped. And even though they're being primed and warped, there's still no proof of a significant increase in the last 2 years of these models. What's worse is, let me see if I can publicly. Here we go. Another sign of stalling is that despite all the hype, companies like OpenAI are now regularly not releasing internal models to the public, almost certainly because they don't work as well for the hype claims. It's true. I hadn't considered this, but it is true. If you go back and read some of the releases, like the release announcements, not just of OpenAI, but Microsoft, Claude, there was another one I looked at. If you look at the release announcements for some of their models, they are becoming increasingly less public. And I think that, yes, the video generating AI Sora isn't publicly available after nearly a year, probably because it sucks. So let me see. The amount of money that goes into it. A tech journalist, Garrison Lovely, wrote about this on Substack. If you have a way of outcompeting human experts on STEM tasks, but it costs $1 billion to run on a day's worth of tasks, you can't get to a capabilities explosion, which is the main thing that makes the idea of artificial general intelligence so compelling to many people. In other words, for the lack of improvements that we get, we're spending billions upon billions of dollars, and for those dollars, we get barely good outputs. So you have to think about it as what is the output of these models, even when you present problems to these models that would be, say, very complex, right? And they get one or two right, at the tune of what? Billions upon billions of dollars. And then I thought that this led to a very good, let me see, I think it was Einstein. Here we go. So a mini thought experiment. This is such a good kind of closing statement to this article. Who do you think can make breakthroughs in physics? One Einstein or 1,000 physics undergrads? Barring that none of the undergrads just happens to be an Einstein in waiting, the answer is what? Who do you think would most likely make a breakthrough in physics? And this is the problem with these AI systems. These AI systems barely make it to physics undergrad levels. Barely, just barely. And they do that pre-primed to the tunes of what? Billions of dollars. And that does not include the energy costs. That's not energy cost inclusive. That's energy cost exclusive, which means all of that water and electricity that's being used to get this output is not included in the billions upon billions of dollars we're spending to get barely anything. Imagine what you could do if you spent those billions of dollars on human beings who have scientifically and academically and statistically been proven to massively overperform against AIs, especially when it comes to complexity and creative thinking in terms of creative solutions and complex tasks. Humans beat. There was a study that I covered a few weeks ago, and it literally said that humans not only overperform on complex tasks with creative solutions, but they do so at 450 times more efficient energy rates than any AI model in existence. 450 times better energy consumption, more efficient energy consumption by a human to come up with solutions that vastly outpace anything that these LLMs can come up with on complex tasks. And by the way, when I say complex tasks, I'm not talking about like you go from 1 + 1 = 2 to 2 × 2 = 4, or square root polynomial things like that. I'm not talking about like a big jump. That's what I'm trying to say. I really screwed that up. I apologize. What I'm talking about is something akin to what I actually screwed up saying, which is 1 + 1 = 2 is fine. Once you get to 2 × 2 = 4, then the complexity rate in consideration to what LLM considers complexity, it starts jumping dramatically. So it takes actually very little of an increased complexity to have the LLM think it's very big in terms of complexity. For what? Like, At what dollar? Well, what price point? At what energy point? Right? Hey, Vivax on Twitch. That's what I've been saying when people ask me why I don't use Copilot. Like, yes, it's useful. I can't deny that, but it's also not useful enough for the price. No, it's not. And I have some studies lined up that I'm reading. That I need to read them thoroughly. I try and read everything thoroughly before I cover them. That's why I'm usually like 1 or 2 weeks behind. But some studies that I read this morning while I was prepping for the stream have proven that your cognitive abilities necessarily decay as you use these AI systems. And we're talking about fundamental cognitive abilities long term, like multi-months. Like it takes a long time for those cognitive abilities to come back once you've delegated them to an AI system. I would argue that you should never use them. At this point, you should absolutely avoid AI. The only way that you should use any AI system is if you walk in with the assumption that everything it tells you is wrong and hallucinated and a lie. And if you walk in with that assumption and you continue that assumption consistently through your use of AI, then yes, it has benefits. And I have proven that as well. I read a study, this was weeks ago now, where doctors were using AI to review x-rays of potential breast cancer victims. And the doctor's rates of detection alone was somewhere in the 80% range when they judiciously and very rigorously used AI, assumed it was wrong, and then supplemented their detection mechanisms, their human-based detection mechanisms, along with whatever AI was telling them. Their detection rate success percentage went up from 80% to 90%, but they walked in using AI like that. It's going to tell me that something that's wrong. I better make sure literally everything it says, I have to assume it's wrong, etc., etc. And they got some benefits out of that. That's great. That's a good, fantastic use of AI. There are definitely use cases for it, but that's not what, your famous tech influencer is going to tell you, or that tech CEO or whatever. Like, the tech industry is fully bought into the hype that these LLM systems can just be trusted ad hoc. It's so stupid. Ross says 400 times sounds like 450 times. Okay, Ross, get it right. The energy usage is insanely high. Yeah, especially if you account for the energy costs of pure. Yes, that's right. Server farms have to use drinking water or better purified water. That's right. Yeah, water, electricity, and then you have the construction costs. You have maintenance costs. Where you build it also has an impact, because there are second and third order effect costs. If you build a data center in a town, for example, where other people are dependent on that electricity grid, that water grid, etc., you necessarily detract from their ability to have access to that. And then that has downwind impacts on things like financial costs to families who live near the data center, right? So families who have less access to energy and water because the data center is using it up more and there's more construction and so on and so forth, have less ability to have meaningful work and produce income, which means that it devalues the financial, I guess, mean or average of the town or city that they're built in, which means that there's, you can extrapolate all kinds of second and third order effects from these things. And what are we getting out of them? What are we getting out of them? Studio Ghibli and barely junior level code. Viva says, also pet peeve of mine, the term AI is meaningless. Yeah, AI is not machine learning, right? It's not an algorithmic statistical thing. That's not AI, absolutely. Getting rid of AI won't get rid of data centers. We've had those long before LLMs. True, it's just that we're now pumping money and effort into data centers vastly more than anything we've ever done before. If you look at the amount of money, just data centers alone, I think last year there was it was either $8 or $80 billion, one of those two. I covered an article last year alone, 2024. That's the amount of money that was spent only on data centers, and I think that's globally. I'm pretty sure that's globally. That's an insane amount of money. That's like never before seen money for data centers. Meta wants to spin up a nuclear power plant, I'm not joking, to power their AI system. Anyways, this stuff is stupid. It's gone too far. That's why I cover the articles that I do. Let's change. Let's move to a different topic now. Maybe after LLM bubble crashes, cloud hosting will get cheaper. Yes, and we'll have more money than we know what to do with, because people will be begging us to come back to work and fix all the problems. Okay, now, if you haven't been watching for a while, I'll just briefly explain kind of a summary of how I think the tech industry has got to the place where it is now. In the past, programmers and managers and executives as well, just in whole, people in the tech industry as a whole, take your pick of person, but in particular, programmers were the ones who were most responsible for this, had to be creative and had to use ingenuity, non-novel methods to create products that you can still run to this day, by the way. You could pick up something like Winamp. You can actually run it on your machine to this day. Older versions of like Notepad, or take your pick of like older Linux software, all that kind of stuff. Video games back in the old console days where hardware was extremely limited and you wanted to create a complex game, and take your pick of limitations that programmers in the tech industry had, and they accomplished a great deal. Stuff that we look back on and go, man, that was great. Why don't people create this stuff anymore? And there are a multitude of factors that have gone into it. I went on a show a few weeks ago, Rob Noor, Normal America with Rob Noor. There's a link on my Discord to it if anybody wants it, but it's on his Rumble. He had to put it on Rumble, take it off of YouTube. So about an hour in, I lay out the entire argument, how we got here, on that show for about 2 hours. Stuff I've never gone over before on these streams before. And now I'm going to start building up the case for that entire history of how the hell this happened. And AI, by the way, is just a box of all the stupid decisions that have been made in the tech industry, capable now of being mass produced inside of that black box that we call AI. And we just get to produce more of those stupid decisions faster and more stupid. The primary thing that I point to as the downfall of the tech industry is leftist ideologies. Now, I also call out like rightist ideologies as well, because there are definitely other elements of political and societal leanings that play into it. And I am non-discriminatory. I do not discriminate between these societal leanings. The primary argument that I make is this: code does not care about your political leanings. It actually doesn't care if you're leftist or rightist. It doesn't care if you're conservative or liberal. It doesn't care whether you're rich or poor. It doesn't care about which country you live in. Within the space of programming, you just have code and hardware that executes code, and that is a purely logical paradigm. It so happens to be that leftist ideologies have infected that space, that purely logical space, and have begun to go against the nature of that space and started adapting it and turning it into this weird Frankenstein and embedding their ideology into it where it has no place. And to some degree, the people on, let's say the right, right and left, just a general bucket term, right? Because it's the actual societal and political stuff is beyond my expertise to talk about appropriately. There are other people who do a much better job, but just those ideologies, those ideological movements seep themselves into abstractions, paradigms, frameworks, libraries, languages. And they do things like you have to change like GitHub's use of the term master to main. You cannot use certain terms in the Unreal Engine coding guidelines, et cetera, et cetera. And now we have Rust. And so I'm going to start with Rust, and I'm going to start slowly over the next few streams, well, over an indefinite amount of streams. I'm going to start building up the evidence for this as well and going deeper into exactly what I'm talking about. So I have a backlog of evidence of that built up. So this is the article that I'm going to read. We're going to read it together. Rust is indeed woke. Now, I will not touch Rust with a 10-foot pole. And the reason why I won't touch Rust is because of exactly this. Rust is an ideological movement that borrows from leftist ideology almost in full. You have the overthrowing of current hierarchies, which is a power play. You have sellouts who pearl clutch and virtue signal until there's money to be had, and then they sell out their principles. You have the defiance of the natural order of things. And you have virtue signaling or woke signaling types of statements, like all the old C developers are gatekeeping all those graybeards or whatever. We have to overthrow them, and we have to infect ourselves and everything and be as annoying and loud as possible, which leftists like to do. It's basically just the LA riots in the tech space, and they just infect everything. And now they're in Linux. Now everything is being made in Rust and so on. And the sad part is that there is an alternative. If you're really that concerned about memory safety, you have FIL-C, which takes any amount of C code that you throw at it and creates a memory safe version of that code. And it works really, really well. And we've had C for a long time, and C is not driven by these kinds of movements. It's not captured by them. And you have a way to completely avoid this idiocy. However, what these people do is, well, if you look at, for example, Rust's community leadership, they're often leftists with leftist backgrounds. If you look at Rust's X and Twitter posts, especially historically, like from 2020 onward, and I have a few of those I'll go over on future streams, they talk about Black Lives Matters. They talk about how the tech industry is always political and will always be political. What a stupid thing to say. But this is exactly what's happening. So let's read this article and get into it. Rust and the resistance to it in some parts of the Linux community has been in my feed recently. One undercurrent seems to be the notion that Rust is woke and should therefore be rejected as part of culture wars. I'm going to argue that Rust, the language, is woke. So the opponents are right in that sense. Of course, as ever, dissing something from being woke is nasty and fascist adjacent. So I'm currently being a fascist. I just want you to know that you're currently watching a fascist. I just want you to have a good look at this fascist. I'm a fascist. The obvious way that Rust may seem woke is that it has the trappings and many of the attitudes and outcomes of a modern, nice, floss community. Rust certainly does better than toxic environments like the Linux kernel or Debian. Already there's a projection here of let's project our own, view of things or what we're doing, and we're going to project it onto the existing structures out there so that we can attack them and tear them down. This is reflected in a higher proportion of contributors from various kinds of minoritized groups. But Rust is not outstanding in this respect. It certainly has its problems. Many other projects do as well or better, and this is well-trodden ground. I have something more interesting to say. Technological values, particularly compared to C, C++. Rust is woke technology that embodies a woke understanding of what it means to be a programming language. Ostensible values. Let's start with Rust's strapline, a language empowering everyone to build reliable and efficient software, which is the democratization of meritocracy. Surprisingly, this motto is not mere marketing puff. For Rustaceans, it is a key goal which strongly influences day-to-day decisions, big and small. Empowering everyone is a key aspect of this, which aligns with my own personal values. In the Rust community, we care about empowerment. We are trying to help liberate our users, and we want to empower everyone because everyone is entitled to technological autonomy. Meritocracy be damned. For a programming language, empowering individuals means empowering their communities, of course. It is all very airy-fairy, but it has concrete consequences. Attitude to the programmer's mistakes. Now, this is essentially the leftist safe space argument. We need to create safe spaces, microaggressions. Don't clap, do this. In Rust, we consider it a key part of our job to help the programmer avoid mistakes, to limit the consequences of mistakes, and to guide programmers in useful directions. If you write a bug in your Rust program, Rust doesn't blame you. Rust asks, how could the compiler have spotted that bug? If you have leanings towards, let's say, minor attracted people, you are not blamed for it. It is simply within your nature, and we have to be more respectful of people who are minor attracted people. This is in sharp contrast to C and C++. C nowadays is an insanely hostile programming environment. And so here we go. Look at all the stuff that's not leftist. They're also insanely hostile. A C compiler relentlessly scours your program for any place where you may have violated C's almost incomprehensible rules so that it can compile your apparently correct program into a buggy executable, and then the bug is considered your fault. Yeah, tone policing the compiler. Yes, how dare you judge PDFs? That's right. These aren't just attitudes implicitly embodied in the software, they are concrete opinions expressed by compiler authors and also by language proponents. In other words, Rust sees programmers writing bugs as a systemic problem, which must be addressed by improvements to the environment and the system. The toxic parts of the C and C++ community see bugs as moral failings by individual programmers. Sound familiar? I'm sorry, but I can throw this right back at you. Your article sounds familiar. This is exactly the same argumentation that leftists use all the time. Exactly the same. You can replace a bunch of these terms with societal or political terms, and you'd end up in the exact same place. So you're embedding all this leftist ideology immediately. We're barely halfway through the article, and you're embedding all this ideology into something that should be a purely logical based space. If you want to make arguments against C and C++, make them based on logical arguments. What's up, EOD? Good to see you, man, on the YouTube side. So right away, we're starting off, and already we have projection. Already we have, the equivalent argument of why leftists defend PDFs, minor attracted people. We already have the democratization of meritocracy. We already have the overthrow and take down current power hierarchies, the graybeards, the gatekeeping. Everybody else is toxic except us. We're more accepting. Let's be annoying, but for a good reason. Etc., etc. So, and safe spaces and all that. We have all of that, and we're not even halfway through. The ideology of the hardcore programmer. Programming has long suffered from the myth of the rock star, quote unquote. And so now we have the attack of individuals who have done impressive things in the industry. You see leftists do this as well, where they tear down historical statues of people who have paved the way for things that we get to enjoy, and they go, nope, this person did something bad in the past, everybody else should suffer because of it, and we should tear down the statues of this person because they did this thing. Silicon Valley tech bro culture loves this notion. In reality, though, modern information systems are far too complicated for a single person. Yes, modern movements, modern societal stuff is far too complicated to just, state anything but the leftist kind of slice up into individualized, what would you call them, like minorities, like diversified people, where you slice up people by immutable characteristics, and you do so often. It's crazy. It's the exact same argumentation. Developing systems is a team sport. Non-technical and technical adjacent skills are vital. Clear but friendly communication, obtaining and incorporating the insights of every member of your team, willingness to be challenged, community building, collaboration, governance. The hardcore C community embraces the rock star myth. They imagine that a few super programmers or super reviewers are able to spot bugs just by being so brilliant. Of course, this doesn't actually work at all, as we can see from the atrocious bug fest that is the Linux kernel. Of course, you're ignoring all the times where it does work. There are individual C programmers who write stuff that is ubiquitously used in a vast majority of the web today, or software, the tech industry today. These rock stars want us to believe that there is a steep hierarchy in programming, that they are at the top of this hierarchy, and that being nice isn't important. Sound familiar? Yes! You're exactly the same argumentation. We have to overthrow the power hierarchy. This is what leftists generally want. Memory safety as a power struggle. Much of the modern crisis of software reliability arises from memory unsafe programming languages, mostly C and C++. Addressing this is a big job requiring many changes. This threatens powerful interests, notably corporations who want to keep shipping junk. See also conniptions over the EU Product Liability Directive. The harms of this serious problem mostly fall on society at large, but the convenience of carrying on as before benefits existing powerful interests. Sound familiar? Yeah? Yeah? What is the left in this case? I'm going purely based on leftism as it is in North American culture, because you're right, Vivax, that left does mean different things in different countries. But in North American culture, which is what I'm most familiar with, I'm basing it on that. EOD on YouTube says, sounds like this person just doesn't like programming. C and C++ are hard. Linux is hard, so I don't like it. Yeah, essentially. Yeah. I mean, not essentially. That's definitely a part of it. You're not familiar with American politics. It's really not that hard. Spend maybe like an hour or two and just look up like leftist ideology in the West. You could just Google it or just ask AI. I don't know, and you'll get the sense of it pretty quickly. Memory safety via Rust as a power struggle. And also, by the way, Vivax, I also try and map the statements made here with the leftist ideology in North American culture the way that I perceive it to be. So I do my best to try and map on these kinds of things. So memory safety via Rust as a power struggle. Addressing this problem via Rust is a direct threat to the power of established C programmers such as gatekeepers in the Linux kernel. Supplanting C means they will have to learn new things and jostle for status against better Rustaceans or be replaced. More broadly, Rust shows that it is practical to write fast, reliable software, and that this does not need mythical rock stars. So established C programmer experts are existing vested interests whose power is undermined by this approach to tackling this serious problem. Sound familiar? So this is not an RIIR manifesto, which means rewrite it in Rust. I'm not saying we should rewrite all the world's C in Rust. We should not try to do that. Rust is often a good choice for new code or when a rewrite or substantial overhaul is needed anyway, but we're going to need other techniques to deal with all of our existing C. And then they talk about converting C, automated systems that convert C to raw. But as for Linux, it is a scandal that substantial new drivers and subsystems are still being written in C. We could have been using Rust for new code throughout Linux years ago and avoided very many bugs. Those bugs are doing real harm. This is not okay. I first learned C from KNR in 1989. I spent the first 3 decades of my life as a working programmer writing lots and lots of C. I've written C++ too. I used to consider myself an expert C programmer, but nowadays my C is a bit rusty and out of date because I found Rust and immediately liked it. I find that my software in Rust actually works and doesn't do harm in the world. On the meaning of woke, the original meaning of woke is something much more specific, to do with racism. For the avoidance of doubt, I don't think Rust is particularly anti-racist. I'm using woke like Rust's opponents are in the much broader and now much more prevalent culture war sense. If you're a senior developer who knows only C, C++, doesn't want their authority challenged, and doesn't want to have to learn how to write better software, you should hate Rust. Also, you should be fired. Now, let me see if I can find this. Here we go. The community leadership, the community leadership behind Rust has a history going back years of people who have leftist ideology or this woke ideology. And they use Rust as a mechanism by which to beat other people over the head with and make them conform to their way of programming. And I'm not kidding when I say this. This is the surface level scratching of this kind of ideology. If you think this is bad, I have some stuff that's going to blow your mind. But I'll end with this scientific study, which absolutely, in my opinion, leans very much into, it's very much on the nose with regards to leftist ideology on things like transgenderism. I do not think that you can be more on the nose about your leftist ideology than this. A scientific paper called Safe Trans, which uses an AI system to transgender from C to Rust. These people are not using Rust for the purposes that they claim, much like leftists in this day and age. And again, I want to be clear. I point to leftists because they are the primary people who typically have this kind of thinking. But I have called out people on the right, let's say. Again, general terms, okay? I'm not being very specific. I'm being purposefully ambiguous because it's out of my ability to properly scope the terms. So I hope that you will forgive me by using ambiguous terms. But people with these kinds of ideologies seem to be the most prominent people, the most loud. They are making the most, let's say, waves in society right now, although other people who are opposed to them also make waves, and I also call them out when they try and bring their ideology into programming as well. This kind of crap has no place. It has no place in code. Code does not care about your ideology. Code cares about the efficiency, speed, and security of its execution. It cares about the imperative order and the logical premises that you built your code on. And the reason why is because the natural state of code, just as the natural state of humans is it's nature, and the way that humans have lived for thousands, tens of thousands of years, however long you want to put that time frame, hardware is the natural state of code. And that's it. That's where it starts and that's where it stops. And this kind of crap has no place in this world. If you are going to bring your ideology and start making programming bend to your ideology, then you've got it all wrong. You've tackled the problem all wrong. You've tackled the problem with a bad premise. A counterpoint. Do literally whatever you want with your computer. Why are you the computer police? I'm not the computer police. I am asking people to use the computer as it's intended to be used. If you cannot understand that, bad cop, then I don't know what to tell you. The idea that people like this can embed their ideology into the computer is not the intended use case. The intended use case is not to take a computer and embed ideology and then implement the ideology. When it comes particularly to the programming space, ideology isn't a requirement. The computer was invented to win a war. Should I be winning a war? I don't know. Should you? You could try. You could try. Okay, that's it. That I think that's it. Let me just check and see if I had any more articles. I don't think so. I think that's it. That's the only one I had. So yeah, so I'm going to start calling out these kinds of articles, these kinds of arguments. The entire premise that programming should be driven by ideological movements is completely ridiculous. It's stupid. You're stupid if you agree with that, and it doesn't matter what your ideology is. It just has no basis in the way that we're supposed to operate when we create software and websites and all of that. It just doesn't belong here. You can use the thing. If you want to talk about using the thing for other purposes, sure, you can use the thing for other purposes. But the use of it for other purposes is not what I'm talking about here. A Rust ideology is let's write fewer bugs. No, it's clearly not. It's part of its ideology, but that's not the only thing that it goes by. The printing press can be considered a computer with some imagination. Yeah, you could consider that. Woke is a social Marxist project. I mean, yeah, sure, yeah. It kind of depends on where your definition stems with regards to woke. Bad cop, hello, I'm stupid. I mean, I wasn't talking about you specifically, bad cop. Just general terms here, okay? Jeez. If you want to call yourself out like that, fine, but did I name anybody? I don't think I named anybody, except maybe the author of the article. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's all I got. Engineering is not equal to ideology. Yes, that's right, EOD on YouTube. No, bad cop. I didn't say... Oh, okay, hang on. Let me just read chat properly here. Vivak says, I mean, I do agree some Rust people go a bit far with the whole use Rust everywhere thing, but I don't think the language itself is woke in any way. The premise of the language itself being woke exists. The language itself in a vacuum, the technical aspects of the language is not necessarily woke. No, because again, like it's code, right? Like it's code execution. It doesn't care. But when you use something to promote an ideological movement, it becomes ideological. So you take the thing in and of itself and deconstruct like the execution paths and the memory safety and the compiler and say, clearly that's woke. It's like, no, that's dumb. But it's also dumb in the reverse then. So in both directions, you cannot make you shouldn't be making an ideological claim. And yet Rust people do, and very overtly. It's the projection of critical theory into the current culture. Right, Battle, yeah. Are you sure you aren't just doing the same thing with your own ideology? Yes, I'm quite sure, bad cop. See you later. That was genuinely just a stupid thing to say. Yes, I'm sure I'm not doing the same thing with my own ideology. Peace out, bad cop. Okay, that's it. I'm going to end the stream. I'm out of here. It's over. Tech news is over. So I'm going to be covering more of these articles in the future. I'll be back tomorrow for more daily tech news. And I'm going to do another video game stream this week at some point. I have to sort out when. That was fun to do last night. And okay. So yeah, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay safe out there. Okay. And don't listen to people who are promoting this kind of ideology into software and stuff. And I'm going to dig into it a lot more. It gets worse than this. If you thought this was bad, it gets worse. I appreciate all the support. If you are willing to consider financially supporting me, I have like a tip thing. You can just type in !tip, and there's a goal that I'm trying to hit here. It's up there. I appreciate all the people who have donated so far. But if you can't part ways with your money, which I understand, at the very least, make sure you hit like, subscribe, repost, reshare. All that stuff helps to get the engagement out there. And the engagement means that I get to be in front of more people's eyeballs. Okay. And I get to make these arguments and hopefully persuade people that we have to stop doing this stuff. For example, the article I just read, the heavy dependence on AI, all of that stuff, and hopefully persuade more people and inform more people so that they can make better decisions, because we're headed down a bad path in the tech industry. So help me out with that engagement. It's just a click for you and it's free. So don't be lazy. Do it for me, please. Well, wait, you do realize you spent the entire thing pushing the ideology left is bad? Oh yeah, so two things can be true at the same time. Sure. But I disagree with other ideologies as well. It's just that the left is the one that's easiest to pick out. I've been very clear about this, Vivax. Like, I've literally qualified everything I've said, why I'm picking on this, how it's not exclusive to just the left. I think at this point you're just choosing to misunderstand me so you can strawman me. So if you want to continue doing that, that's your prerogative. But it's a very low tier tactic. To purposefully not pay attention to the words that are coming out of my mouth so that you can make some kind of virtue signaling statement that I am as I don't know, egregious as the people that I complain about. Use your ears and your brain a little bit, and you'll see, especially if you go back on previous streams, that I also call out other ideologies which are not based on the left. And I'll do the exact same thing. Okay? Give money to the Greek dev or you're a racist. Thank you, Battle. All right, that's it. I'm out of here. I know that people are trying to preempt the suck thing, but you're all about to get sucked. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you for the views. I appreciate it. Peace. By the way, there's an article that I forgot to read. It's a scientific study, and it's called People Who Suck in Chat. And they literally just went over my chat just now. It's freshly released today. It's peer reviewed. It's been cited 10,000 times. And here's a list of people who suck. Laughably, you suck. EOD, you suck. Abe, you suck. Effing Epic, you suck. Battle, you suck. Purecoin, you suck. Vivax, you suck. System Patch on X, by the way, thanks for popping in. You suck. Yeah, Bad Cop doesn't even deserve to get called out. Okay, so I'm gonna skip Bad Cop. It doesn't even deserve it. Okay, Frozen, who is also Ernesto on YouTube, you suck. Ross, you suck. Okay, everyone in chat, including people who have probably missed, like Are We Not Men, I think I missed. I probably missed Ray. I'm pretty sure Ray was around. All of you suck. The scientific study says you suck. You're all a bunch of leftist losers. All of you, every single one of you. That's right. How dare I? And yet I did. This scientific paper says you all suck. All of you suck.